Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. Sorry for getting a little bit of a late start this morning, but we're here and it's great to be here with you. Today's topic is hope, the hope that sustains us and also the hope that deludes us or that we delude ourselves with. Good morning, Rosalind. Sorry for the late start. Great to have you here with us, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Looks like I'm a little more ethereal today with this lighting going in and out. It's so strange why that might happen. It's so bizarre. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about hope. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together and vigorously rub your hands together to feel all those sensations, the tickling, the tingling, the pressure, the temperature, the motion, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I kind of love this shimmery in and out kind of thing that's happening. Anyway, so hope. I had a conversation yesterday with a client talking about hope being kind of a dirty word and something that was kind of founded in delusion and avoidance and passivity, and like we're just hoping that things are going to be better. We're not doing anything, but we're hoping that things are going to get better. And there's a powerlessness behind that kind of hope in its way. Is just kind of the feeling at the effect of circumstances and just resorting to hope to keep us going. So that idea of hope keeping us going transitions us to another kind of hopefulness. And so this person was saying, hope's kind of a dirty word and that it's a fabrication and whatever. And I said that I believe that getting out of bed in the morning, waking up into a new day, there's a hopefulness about that is essential to life. That's essential to that life itself is hopefulness. That why even move forward if there isn't some kind of expansive hopefulness for growth, for development, for something new, for life. That hope is fundamental to the essence of life. And I think that there's a Pollyanna kind of hope, which is this person was talking about it in the context of our medical establishment and how healthcare has generated false hope for people. that they're going to get better. For instance, people with really bad conditions and terminal conditions, but keeping them alive at all costs, kind of thing, and creating this false hope. And I think that it's an interesting thing, particularly when we look at facing medical issues and death. Ultimately, we create this this potentially false hopefulness that prolongs life. So, you know, we can do all these big time interventions, and we can give you, I love that, we can give you another 6 months of life, but the quality of that life is going to be pretty terrible. You know, you're going to be in pain. You're not going to be able to eat. You're going to have a feeding tube. You're going to, you know, whatever it is. And that somehow is meant to be hope. It's a perversion of hope in its way, from my vantage point anyway. And what is it serving to do? It's an avoidance of in this case that we're talking about, of death. And we as a culture have been acclimated to choose life at all costs. One of those costs being living, you know, the quality of life. And so I think that that it's valuable to recognize what we came to is that hope can inspire action, and that is an actionable hope. That is a hope that is grounded in possibility and potential. It's not an empty wish that is a denial. Instead, it's an incentivizing, motivating, activating force. So if we didn't have hope that there could be change in the world, we probably wouldn't take action to make that change happen. So it's not, that hope is not an empty vessel. That hope is a catalyzing spark that particularly in the face of making change, right? That if we didn't have hope and a belief and some dimension of faith that change could happen, we wouldn't do anything. We wouldn't take action. We wouldn't get out of bed, I think. So while some people have this perspective about hope being empty, I tend to disagree. That of course we're making the distinction between a hope that allows us to remain disempowered and a hope that inspires us into further expression. And I think we get to look at our lives and see where we place our hope. You know, do we sit back and do nothing and hope that things are going to change, or do we allow our sense of hope and optimism and potential and possibility to draw us forward into inspired action and a deeper expression of ourselves and our being and our engagement in the world and on the planet? And being there, our hope is challenged in this world right now in so many ways, probably throughout time. But as we look at the state of the planet and the state of humanity, there are lots of reasons to be challenged. And we can use our hope to spur us into action, or we can use our hope to excuse ourselves from engagement. And there's a qualitative and profound difference between those two ways of being. There has to be a hopefulness in order to spur action, because we have hopefulness that our action is going to have an impact, right? Otherwise, why bother, right? What do we have to inspire us? And yet the sitting in the corner and hoping that something's going to change. So Rosalind says, if hope is seen as a substitute for ignoring, in your client's case, that appears as avoiding. Perhaps it's like rejecting self emotions. Yeah, so there's a form of hope that can be a denial. So I appreciate that, Rosalind. Thank you. So instead of ignoring, we're looking at something and we're hoping, because we're feeling powerless. You know, we're hoping that things change, but we can feel powerless. You know, looking at somebody crashing and burning in their lives and wanting to be able to make a difference, not knowing how to do anything, and just hoping that something is going to change. It was interesting because in this conversation, prayer also came up. And I'm aware of the power of prayer. There's prayer that, good morning, Robin, welcome. We're talking about hope, and now we have moved into prayer. There have been studies done where there have been groups of meditators in a city that are essentially creating this meditation, this prayer, this frequency that has transformed crime rates, for instance. There are studies on this that prove it to be so. And Dr. Joe Dispenza has been doing all kinds of research with the thousands of people that he has doing meditations, and seeing the impact of this meditation, which I think we can equate with prayer, toward healing conditions that have been deemed terminal or unhealable. And they've had phenomenal results and measurable results. They've measured them, they're documenting them, and which is a wonderful thing, because it validates the power of intentionality. And I guess that's what it gets down to here in this conversation around hope. There's hope that's passive, that is wishing, kind of like a wish fulfillment, just like there's prayer that is pleading, rather than generating. And then there's hope that acts as this driving force, or this catalyzing energy that spurs us into action. And I'm looking to, or I'm inquiring into the distinction between hope and optimism. So I think we can have a candy-coated optimism too, where we just pretend that everything is rosy. It's interesting. Somebody had spoken the term toxic positivity to me a while back, which was, I never heard of such a thing. And what it refers to is essentially sugarcoating anything, and be kind of denying what is there. So when there's a tragedy, saying immediately, essentially, it's all going to work out for the best in the long run. And the truth is, that it's very likely that it is all going to work out for the best in the long run. At least this is my perspective. And that doesn't mean that we get to deny the impact, the immediate impact of something, the response to it, the experience to it. You know, when we're in the midst of a tragedy, there are things, feelings, experiences to be processing through before we get to the point where we can recognize the gift, because that shift of attention, while it can be essential to survival on some level, it's also a denial. So there's this funny balance, this tightrope that we get to walk, that in the midst, that there's a time for everything, right? And in a given moment, to be able to subvert our feelings, to be able to handle the emergency of the moment is an important survival strategy. And what happens is that gets laid over the trauma, right? Like I'm spurred into action, I'm taking action, I'm not immersing myself in the experience of the trauma in a given moment so that I can address what needs addressing in that moment. That's awesome. That's a skill and a gift of a response that allows us to, move beyond whatever the feelings are in the moment. And those feelings remain there. So Robin says an option, a desire or need. That's Robin says, don't know, those words were popping up. So I think that what you're talking about is degrees, and that's kind of what we're looking at, Robin, is this degree of hope or this degree of positivity or optimism that it's kind of like greenwashing. If you're laying it over, if you're greenwashing something that is all toxic underneath, the surface may look great, but if you scratch not too deeply, all this toxicity is released. And so it's ultimately what we're dealing with is polarities and finding a unification point where all the complete spectrum of these emotions and experiences get met. And so it's not black and white from hopefulness or hopelessness to hopefulness, or this passive hopefulness to an activating hopefulness. There's this spectrum. Same with optimism, same with prayer, same with intentionality. So Robin says, when it comes to prayer for others, I find myself not holding on to expectations. It's more like holding or awakening a higher vibration of energy for other possible outcomes. For myself, hope gets questioned like, what is real? But that blocks inspiring insights to new ways of being. Beautifully said, Rosalind. So Robin says different levels of needs of hope. Yes, exactly. And I think that it's not like the different levels, it's not black and white. And Rosalind, when you say, when you're praying for others, you're not holding on to the expectation. So you're creating this energy that is unencumbered, that in its way, has a freer flow, because there's not the second guessing of it. There's just this intentioned, clear energy. When it comes to ourselves, we can start questioning and mitigating the perspective, the hope, the experience. And I think it's a worthy thing to be thinking about, is because I was here's another example. I was engaging with another potential client. We had done a session, and they were gobsmacked, essentially, that what we did worked. And this is not a person who was experienced or practiced in really self-awareness in terms of their feelings. They had been really conditioned to subvert their feelings and just do what there is to be done, subvert their knowing, do what there is to be done. And they found it quite remarkable that paying attention in this process, like, what are they feeling? Where is it in their body? What are they noticing? They had extreme back pain, and the back pain disappeared in the context of the session. And they had been in the session paying attention to the emotion they were experiencing, to trying to put words to it, to finding where it was in their bodies, to connecting, in other words. And they found it so remarkable to see the power of this simple awareness. Like, it didn't make any sense that change should happen out of this process. And I kind of agree. I mean, I get why it makes sense, but it's still pretty much magic as far as I can tell. But anyway, this is someone who didn't pay attention to their feelings. So what they would do is they would immediately subvert them. And this is a skill that many of us in the transformational realm have developed, is to be able to transform or shift context for something immediately, without recognizing, without allowing ourselves to process the shock of the experience that also is coexisting with that potential for the goodness that will be the ultimate outcome, if that makes any sense. So we know that many of the most powerful learning experiences of our lives have come from moments of deep darkness and despair. And at the same time, we need to experience those deep dark spaces also, in order to get to the place where it is catalyzed. We don't get to, this is another phrase, spiritual bypassing. We don't get to bypass the experience and get immediately to the awakening. It's the process of going through that experience that provides the awakening. So anyway, that's this notion of hope. So the question is, is the hope that you feel and the prayers that you feel, that you express, are they activating and catalyzing and inspiring you into some kind of engagement, or are they being used as tools of disengagement? And I think that that's a really important thing to be looking at. What is life affirming? What is affirming our further expression and engagement in life? And with that, I'm going to wrap it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And I'm ever so grateful to you always for your engagement and your willingness to consider all of these questions. And I have so much gratitude and love for you.